I just want to give you a little taste of the Tarnopol Oblast. They have some wonderful records we've been photographing, we're going to be indexing. That's me with the director, one of the directors, with Alex Denisenko. And just a few examples, taxpayer lists from a variety of communities, and they're typed, which we really like because there's no excuse, you can definitely read the handwriting. This is from, I believe this was a budget from Scalot. Voter records 1922, women were voting, so that's very useful. We're going to skip that because it will take too long. We go to the Lviv archives. There is the reading room. This is from the card catalog, a complaint from the Jews of Horodenka about the election results. This is Natalie Dunai. Okay, but we'll skip that because it's playing slowly. Voter lists for many towns. Here we have the books of residence. This is specific to Lvov because it was such a big town. Starting in, I think this starts in 1790, the families were required to register. They had things called ordinal numbers, which is specific to Lvov. You'll see them in our records. People say, what is this ordinal number? It was the family number. And if someone was born, if someone got married, if someone moved into the house, it's noted in this book. This book is in Lviv, but it's been photographed by the Mormons, so you can also get it on the LDS microfilms. And this particular book has records from 1824 to 1850. They would add new volumes as the years went on. They are somewhat hard to decipher. You can see the handwriting. They also have some wonderful records photographed again by the LDS. This was an invitation to the leadership of the Building Commission. And someone asked me about directories and where they mixed old street names and new street names. We have some of these online. 1871 is when some of the street names changed, and they linked the house number to the street number and the street name. Most of this can be gotten online, but this was a handwritten page with the profession of the person who lived in the building. And you can usually trace other people who lived in your apartment building in Lvov, which did have apartments. And just another example of the type of document. So we're going to go through this quickly. This was interesting. This is a case in Otynya, a file about elections of the board of Otynya Jewish community. And I thought it was just interesting text because there were 4 Hasidim sects, Hasids left by Kalman Scherzer and somebody else, and they were saying we have to pay for 4 separate kosher butchers for such a small town. And 2 butchers would be more than enough. And the Hasidim are 1.5 of the total Jewish population, but they keep trying to impose themselves on the board of the community. So it gives you an idea of the conflicts that existed within one town. And this would also come under the heading of unusual documents. The tabular registers, which is probably in the handout, have notary records, sales contracts. When someone died, they would have probate records. Extremely useful. And what we're doing is we are indexing the name indexes, which I think I have here. This is an example of a contract to purchase. You have the names of the people participating in the sale, the size of the land, very useful information. But the question is, how do you know if your relative is mentioned in this? So I think I'm going to get to a Dobromil, because we don't have time to read all of these. This is a copy of the Dobromil Tabular Register alphabetical index for a certain year. So if your relative is listed in this index, it will give you the page and the volume where you can find the actual record. And the record could be they divided their land up, they were giving it to a daughter who was getting married. So we're attempting to find as many indexes. The records themselves would be impossible to translate, but if you have an index, you could request, I want a copy of this record for my relative in this town, and we would be able to get that to you. This is just a close-up of what the indexes look like. Sometimes an entire family is mentioned. This is the city archives, and here we have a Lvov University record. Those are available too. Many women went to university in Lvov in the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s. You can get their entire record, including the classes they took and their grades. The Stefanik Library, there's my library card, has the Polish magnate landowner records, and I was able to find out that in 1830, a Jewish person, Elkin von Elkensberg from Bavaria, was given the town of Zhimolov. He was the first owner of the town, and eventually it went to Polish magnate landowners. There is the Polish magnate landowner's great-grandson, who I tracked down. That's a whole other lecture, probably. But the Polish magnate landowner's great-grandson had a family album, and here we have a photograph taken from the castle above the town of the synagogue. Can you see the synagogue roof in the upper left? It's probably one of the few photographs of the synagogue from this angle that exists, and it's only through this kind of research where you can track Polish magnate landowners' records to find out this kind of information, which is why you need to broaden your search. This is a 1765 magnate landowner inventory of that town. And here you have Jewish bakers, before Jews had surnames, but here you have Yankel the baker. And remember, it was a surname later on? Well, this is probably how it was started. Before surnames, Jews who had professions were known as Yankel the baker, and they just held on to that. We also have things like mill contracts. This is from Zhimylov, lists of debtors. Lease contract between Count Leonard Paninsky and Isidore Gottesman. Very specific details. You will operate the mill. This is how long you have the lease for. If you die, here's what happens. Very, very useful. And the relationship between the magnates and the Jews is documented in all these papers, and it is findable. There's also a list of Jewish pub keepers in Kalush, 1790. And again, if your relative was listed there, you would have this information in writing, including their house number. Scala inventory, 1810. And this is just going back to Zhimylov with this map. If you go back to your shtetl with a cadastral map, you find people in the town, you will learn much more than if you're going blind, and you will be able to know if you're standing in front of the house where your relative lived instead of speculating, because you will actually have the map. And I know Ami is not going to speak specifically about the Brody Cemetery, but we did visit it, and if you're interested in learning more about that project, which is close to completion, you can come to see me later. And the last thing I wanted to show you is our map room. All these maps will be online in about a month. In the map room, you'll have a URL to log in. What you'll see is thumbnails, alphabetical order of the town. You will click on the thumbnail, and up will come what it looks like when you've reconstructed the pieces. See how strange it looks, because it's scanned in odd little pieces and it's huge. But then all you have to do is zoom in, and you get a closer look, and you can zoom in even more to get the exact footprint of the house. So, this is the work that Gesher Galitzia is doing in coordination with other groups, of course, Jewish Gen, JRI Poland, and other groups that are doing Galician research. We're a membership organization, so member dues, which are annual, you get a subscription to our journal, quarterly journal, which has wonderful articles. There are also going to be a members-only portal, which means members can view actual images of documents which we are not allowed to put online. It will be behind a firewall. All the indexes and all the maps will be freely available, but the dues go to provide our matching funds for town research. So if you're not a member yet, you can go to our website and join, and I urge you to become a member and support our work if you're a Galicianer. And I welcome all your questions if you have a few while we're changing computers, but thank you for listening.